Number 3, in February, Xbox introduced FPS Boost with 4 titles. It served as a technical workaround to bring older games to 60 FPS or 120 FPS. This week, it announced 74 more games would be receiving FPS Boost, and many of those games are available on Xbox Game Pass. This brings the total of FPS boosted games to 97. Zach Earwood wrote in, "Howdy Dukes, as part of the big list of new FPS Boost titles, Wasteland 3 has been added and now runs at 60 FPS. Well, I'm glad the game runs at a higher frame rate. I figured since the game was released more recently, it would receive a Series X/S upgrade at some point. Does the inclusion of FPS Boost indicate that the game isn't likely to receive a next-gen update, or is FPS Boost a short-term fix until the update comes out? Thanks, and have a great day, guys." So I actually was digging around. I couldn't find an example where FPS Boost disabled next-gen updates, because the idea, I think, with FPS Boost is it's just frame rate targeted. So something like the visuals, the graphical enhancements that a next-gen update can bring, FPS Boost doesn't invalidate that. I think, if anything, it can stave it off, and it's a lot easier to implement. Hence why they announced this in February, and we're already at 97 games. I think it's just I genuinely think it's just like an application of some kind. To announce 74 games at once is pretty monumental, but what do you make of this news and what Zach had to say about next-gen updates versus FPS boosts?
No, I would agree with you. I don't see any. I don't see that it would stop it. Microsoft has stated they don't need devs other than a write-off. Like, it's okay to adjust this. They do it all internally inside of whatever system they've got and this injector that they use. So I don't think it would stop it. I do wonder what enhancements he's expecting from Wasteland 3, because I played it on the PC and I played it on the Xbox. Not, I don't know, man. I'm not sitting here going, man, there's something on the PC that absolutely has to exist on the Xbox version. I think that's more of the possibility of not getting one, is they have to decide it makes sense to do one. And I don't know if they've made sense on that part yet. I could be wrong, but maybe textures a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah. Steve Forgione also wrote in, "Hey Duke boys, hope everything is mid." With 70 plus games added to FPS Boost on Series X, do you know what that means? Mid?
Yeah, middle, right? Is that what he said?
Oh, yeah, like middling.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
That's mid, yeah. With 70 plus games added to FPS Boost on Series X, what should we expect 360 games to receive the same treatment, in addition to adding more OG Xbox and 360 games to Series X? It'd be wonderful to see older games, particularly older Microsoft titles, at 60 and 120 FPS. It would further strengthen Microsoft's backwards compatibility crusade and give so many games a new lease of life. Let me know what you think and what games would benefit the most from this. Take care. P.S. Maddie, Lord of the Rings Conquest came in and I'm having a blast. How this game isn't backwards compatible yet is beyond me. Steven, we love to hear that. Please do enjoy Lord of the Rings Conquest, and I will continue to spread the gospel of this game. Carrick, we're seeing FPS Boost really apply to Xbox One games, with the likes of Far Cry, Assassin's Creed Unity got a boost, The Evil Within 2. Seeing a lot of different games across Game Pass and just in general get this boost. Will we see it for 360 and OG Xbox, though? That is my question. And I know you had early access to this mechanic, this feature. So I think you were more connected to some of the technical background of how this works. So I don't mean to put it all on you, but if you do have some information on that you'd be able to shine a light on, I'd definitely love to hear it.
Yeah, I think we won't see as many old ones unless their physics were not tied to their frame rate, which in the old days it was, because that was a good way to time. Like for every 60 milliseconds, a certain thing happened, and then if you go to 120, suddenly your dish is flying across the table, and that definitely caused issues with like Skyrim and Fallout, those kind of games. Yeah, so all this does is it fools the system into thinking it hasn't drawn a frame, and then it reruns it to draw the next frame, and it's so fast that it can draw multiple frames. And so Microsoft, and it's weird because when it first came out, I was guessing that that's probably the only way they were able to do it, and that is actually the way to do it. It's very intelligent, very difficult though. I like it must have required a lot of work to figure it out, which is why we're seeing not a ton of games. But what we are seeing, I think, is bulk games starting to come out. The reason why I think you saw 97 was because they're starting to bulk test games. Like Like it's not taking as long. Once they've got it up and running, they know what they're looking for. Then bulk testing games is not going to be near as hard. I will say this: I have heard backwards compatibility is completely dead for adding new games. That is what I have heard. There is no new games coming to backwards compatibility. That's Phil sort of stated that a couple times, but then I did ask around, and it's like that's what I've heard. Whether that turns out to be true or not, but that is supposedly, unless some one-off happens, like it's just not a thing. Because they are trying to get all the current stuff and their version of backwards compatibility, which is Xbox One. So I don't think expect more backwards compatibility games, but I do think some 360 games will come through for sure. I just don't know how they were programmed. If they had their physics tied in, that's an issue. What else would be an issue? Oh yeah, you might have an issue with sounds and stuff. So like if you're sampling super fast and stuff, you could have issues where sounds are maybe the way a sound is done, and this used to happen in old days when you get a faster CPU, your sound would sound weird because you needed to actually slow it down so that it wasn't, going too fast. I don't know if like old games that are doing some pretty crazy stuff might have that on the older 360, but yeah, I don't know. We didn't get a single 360 game on this, did we?
No.
On this list.
No, I looked. No.
I didn't believe the list was true, by the way.
Because it was
people
so
told me
massive,
about that
just...
list, and I normally never do videos prior to the thing being announced, but it's like so many people were like, dude, this is for sure real. I was like, I'm gonna do a video and just leave it in the background, and then if it goes live and these are real, I'll just hit live on the video. And the reason why I didn't believe it, Maddie, is because like the Far Cry games, almost all of them, like to me that also proves the bulk testing is probably working, because they're bulk testing the deny or whatever that engine is called. But dude, some pretty sweet titles are on there. 120 for Mad Max. 120. Damn. That's insane. 120 FPS for Mad Max. That's like, by the way, that's like PC level, 120. That now you're getting to the point to where that FPS is like, that's fast. That's very cool to see that.
Yeah, I understand why they've shifted. I think it makes so much more sense on a business front, and I don't think it's a bad trade-off why they're going to focus all in on FPS boost, because I do think this is the way you sort of edge out your competitor. It's that fine thing that will push someone over the edge. So each console family has their strengths, right? Nintendo, portability, amazing exclusives. PlayStation, top tier exclusives. They're signing great deals. And then you've got Xbox with Game Pass. It's like, okay, all of these are very appealing in their own ways, depending on what income you have, what games appeal to you. But then you hear, hey, everything from the last 7 years is going to start getting upgraded for Xbox. Like these current games that are the more relevant sort of back compat experiences. And I think that's where you're going to start to see Xbox pick up some steam, because it becomes this, of course, value package like we've talked about so much and their audience likes to talk about so much, which is the idea that a lot of these games that are added to this humongous FPS boost list are on Game Pass. So it just makes it easier for you to sell that service too. So it's all just feeding into one another, where I do think this is the sensible route. I do want to see them add more original Xbox games and 360 games. Yeah. Even if they do it once, right? I know I'll get greedy and be like, do it one more time now. But if they did it just once, just one time, just went, here's 12 new games. Enjoy these new 360 games. We haven't given up on it yet. Because I remember Jason Ronald was asked on Twitter about it back in October. Or no, I'm sorry, it was Game Informer who asked him. It wasn't on Twitter. Game Informer asked him about it, and they said, we're still looking into it. Licensing agreement, yada, yada, yada. But I'd love for them to do it. I believe you, though. I think it's pretty clear the writing's on the wall, and people are getting excited about FPS Boost, as they should be. And so they should continue in this direction. I just wish it was a situation where, why not both? Why not do both? But
just makes you wonder how much
upgrade the whole library.
We want 12 more. I want all of them to work, but I wonder sometimes how much they were putting into it, not getting a lot back from those devs. And in fact, I would assume some of those devs were like, yeah, if you want a backwards compatibility, we have to work a whole new license, which we did here. Microsoft had done a couple times. And I think that's one nice thing here is they don't have to pay anybody anything. It just works better. And I don't mean that's nice as in I want the developers to not get money. What I mean is it's a faster turnaround time. If they get it working, they can tell the dev, hey, by the way, we're at 60 FPS now. they don't have to wait for the dev to sign anything and be like, you know, we want to rework a whole deal. And this is also backwards compatibility that most gamers expect but never got, which is faster. Most of the time, our backwards compatibility meant compatible. That was it. And now we're getting compatible and improving in ways that are commensurate with the power difference, which is, I mean, dude, the Xbox S, by the way, I just got a fist bump to the invisible Xbox S out there. Man, dude, I was amazed at how many titles they had on there, like that were also on Xbox S. I mean, the idea that somebody can roll around with it, you know, doesn't have a ton of money and is able to place like some of these games at 120, and that's pretty wicked, man. I love it because it gives somebody the ability to get into gaming at a much lower price point.
Exactly what I was saying. I was having a discussion with a buddy the other night, and we were talking a little bit about how gaming nowadays versus back then, and he likes gaming back then. Like he's more like, I think it was better back then. I think it was more pure, yada yada yada. And I'm like, I think you can make the argument nowadays, like growing up, man, you know, someone with like no money, it just the idea of being able to sign up for Game Pass and then see these games getting upgraded that in like you said, commensurate with the power of your new console. I mean, it's just so appealing. And I don't feel like it's coming at a cost anywhere. Like, I feel like because Game Pass is growing, I don't feel like physical copies are going anywhere. Of course, down the line, that likely will end up happening, but I don't feel like those are threatened. And so just feel like gaming's growing and it's more accessible in a way that makes sense for everyone. It's not like, remember when we had that whole thing, I think it was towards like the beginning, middle of the PS4 and Xbox One gen, where they're like, everything's going mobile.
Yeah.
This is the future.
Yeah.
And it's like we've sort of found a workaround to that where console games, single-player games are thriving. They're making money. Game Pass is showing that there's a way to make money. These companies with lots of cash are keeping developers afloat, publishers afloat. They're making good deals. We just covered a lot of them today.